Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar. We have a great presentation prepared for you today. The theme is going to be the smart router. So it's what you need to know about smart routing. So let's go ahead and begin. With that, my name is Jessica Michaels. I am going to be our presenter today. I am our Google guru and product coach here at CallTrackingMetrics. I'm thrilled to say I've been a member of our team here for just under 5 years, and I look forward to another 5 years. Okay, so as coach, I like to start my webinars with a couple of exercises just to get to know your go-to webinar control panel and make sure that everyone can both hear and see me. So if you can hear me, will you raise your hand on the GoToWebinar control panel? Okay, I see hands going up. That's good. All right, I'll take those down. And then if you can see me, as in my picture here, will you raise your hand? Okay, I see hands going up. Great, so that's good. So it looks like everyone can both hear and see me. So next, if you can find the questions box in the GoToWebinar control panel, tell me a little bit about yourself. How about your name and where you're dialing in from? See where everyone's coming from today. And then if you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to enter them into the questions box at any time. And then we have a portion carved out at the end of the presentation where we will review those questions. So let's see, here we go. Oh, looks like we have some people dialing in from Florida. Welcome. Atlanta, Georgia, welcome. Looks like we have some Orange County, California, welcome. Okay, we have some people dialing in from right here in Serona Park, Maryland. Welcome. We are a local Maryland company here. Okay, and now they're starting to come in pretty quickly, so I'm just going to pass those. But it looks like we have all found our question box, so it looks like we're in a good spot to go ahead and begin the presentation. Okay, so we have an excellent agenda for you today. Again, it's all going to be themed around the smart router. So what we're going to be talking about is what is the smart router, how does it work, and then we're going to go over some use cases. And then again, at the end, we'll have a Q&A time, where I will read any questions that you put in the box and address them. So before we actually dive into the presentation, I have some polls prepared. So let's see. Have you ever attended one of our live webinars in the past? Let's see. So there is no right or wrong answer, just getting an idea of who all's here. Okay. So let's go ahead and show those results. So it looks like 20% of us have and 80% are here for the first time. So welcome, we're thrilled to have you. This is actually a mini series that we do. Typically once a month we do a 5-day training, which is a pretty intense training where we start from an empty account, and then by the 5th day we have a fully built out and very functional and advanced CallTrackingMetrics account. We decided to shake it up a little bit this time and play with some shorter, very topic themed classes. So let me go ahead and hide those results. I wanted to real quick share with you the calendar that we have. Here we go. So today is day 1 where we'll be talking about the smart router. Going through the rest of the week, we're going to be talking about the data studio, Facebook. We're going to talk about custom tracking sources, and then we'll be finishing the week with exploring the soft phone. So we also have lots of other exciting trainings every week for you to attend, and then they go, I believe we have them scheduled through June too. So lots of really great content for you to participate in. Okay, whoops. And with that said, how many of you are going to be joining us this week? How many classes did you register for? Are you here just today? Will we be seeing you through the whole class? Or maybe just a few here and there? All right, looks like just about everyone has voted, so let's take a look. So, okay, so we're kind of all over the board, except no one is attending for just 4 days. So great for those just attending today. Welcome. I hope you learn a lot. Feel free to join us for the rest of the week if any of those topics sound enticing to you. And to the 33% joining us all week, we're going to have a great time. All right, I think I had one. Oh, yeah, here we go. So this one is what plan are you on here at CallTrackingMetrics? I should have put one for not a customer, but I didn't do that. So with this one, are you on our business plan, the marketing plan? We have our contact center plan, and then we also have a ton of legacy plans from the past probably 5-6 years. And let's see, looks like only a few of us has voted. Okay, well, I'll just go ahead and share the results. So it looks like 50% of us are on the marketing plan, and then 50% of us are on the legacy plan. This will be important just because that the smart router is only offered on the marketing plan or higher. It is in some of our legacy plans, but I'll be showing you how you can check that later on today. Okay, and then last but not least, kind of just for fun, do you watch Game of Thrones? It is Game of Thrones season, so yes or no? I didn't mean to make the no in all caps. I'm personally a Game of Thrones fan. I was just curious how many people out there are. All right, looks like just about everyone has voted, and it looks like a majority not Game of Thrones fans. Kind of surprised by that, but okay. We're into the last 2 episodes of the whole series. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and begin the presentation. Make sure I'm on the right screen. Here we go. Okay. So we have the smart router. So what is the smart router? Smart routing refers to the intelligent directing of phone calls based on either predefined or dynamically generated rules. Smart routing helps increase conversions, customer satisfaction, and overall efficiency within call centers. Consistent with CallTrackingMetrics' other routing options, the smart router is easily accessed through a simple rule-based interface to set up configurations and change them at any time. So we'll be walking through the entire process today. Okay, so again, the reason why I was asking about plans earlier is that it is only offered on our marketing plan, our contact center plan, and then it is available on some CTM legacy plans. So I can actually show you how you can check that. So let me switch into my demo account here for you guys, since it did look like a majority of you were coming in through legacy plans. Okay, so for today, I'm going to be using my demo account of Coco Loco. If you wanted to check what plan you were on and what features it has, one, it'll tell you right here. So I'm on the contact center plan. And if I wanted to see what features I would have compared to the other plans, we can go to this change plan option. And this will list my features versus the other plans. So if you're on one of our legacy plans, you could just scroll down here and then it will tell you what individual features are offered. So here we have the smart router, which again would be on the marketing plan and the contact center plan. So if you weren't sure, you can feel free to head over here. Again, I went to settings and then change plan, and that'll let you know whether or not you have that feature. Okay, so let me go ahead and switch back to my other screen. There we go. Okay. So you can route calls to a smart router from a tracking number, a voicemail, or a call queue. And you can use the smart router to send calls to a geo router, a receiving number, an agent, or even to another smart router in your account. Okay. So now we're going to do a little bit of back and forth. I'm going to talk about what it takes to build it, and then I'll switch and actually show you these features inside of CallTrackingMetrics. So when you're creating a smart router, you're going to want to navigate to the numbers panel and select smart routing. If you haven't created a smart router yet, it'll take you right into the setup page. Otherwise, you'll need to click the new smart router button in the upper right-hand corner. When creating pretty much any configuration inside of our platform, you're going to start by entering a name, and then you're going to click Add Router, which will be on the right side of the page. Okay. So next, you'll begin to construct the rules for your router. The fields under if all the following rules match will define the conditions for this route. And you can use the drop-down menu to build your rules, and you can do if and statements. So if you need to add multiple conditions, such as if a new caller is yes and a tag includes sales call, then you can do that by hitting the Add Rule button. And with that, there's ands and ors. So from there, you can use the then perform the following action and select to define what happens when the caller meets the criteria that you have created or that you would like to happen. So let's real quick take a look at that inside of the system, because talking about it is one thing, but actually going in and seeing it is a totally other thing. So I'm going to switch on over to my demo account. Here we go. And I'm going to go to Numbers tab and then Smart Router. And since I don't have any created in this account, it is going to just bring me right into creating a new one. So here's where I would want to name it. So, I could say test router. I usually recommend adding in a description. If you're creating a bunch of these, it'll make it very easy to decipher which is which. And then here's where we want to start creating our rules. Now, I didn't list out all the different rule types because there's so many different ways that you can use these. So it can be based on any of these criterias, and then to make it even more complicated, you can do the and or logics. So just to take the example I gave you, so I could say if, say, first time contact is yes, and then I can add a rule and say, and the tag is any, and then I could search for all the different tags I have in my account. So maybe the tag is Facebook. Then I'm going to want to perform an action. So from here, we can handle it different ways. We can hang up, we can route to a voice menu, we can route to a phone number, a geo router, a smart router, a queue, an agent, a tracking number failsafe, or if you have Salesforce connected, you could send it to a Salesforce router. Okay. So let's switch back to the presentation and we'll actually talk about the routing options. So let's switch back. Here we go. So here's going to be our actions. So we can have it hang up, which will terminate the call. We can route it to a voice menu to send the caller to a voice menu and prompt them to make a selection, which could be like, an IVR menu, press 1 for sales, 2 for support. We can route them to a phone number. So this would route to one of your receiving numbers in your account. We can send the calls through a geo router, which is our location-based routing. We can also send it to another smart router. So you can create these really functional but complex routing rules where it can take one smart route and route to another, so that it can go through this very complex routing to get it to the best or most efficient route or agent possible. Sorry, I stumbled all over that. We can route to a queue, so we can send it to an appropriate queue of agents in your account. We can route to an individual agent inside of your account, and we can also route it to a tracking number failsafe, the default failsafe number associated with the tracking number that was called. Okay. So with that, we also have some testing rules, and I really recommend doing this. We have some testing that'll actually show you different colors to say if you use a past call, if it would go through, we would see a lovely green box around here. If it would not go through from a past call, it'll show us red. So then we can go tweak our logic to make sure that it's working properly. I would always recommend using these tests and even doing some call-in tests to make sure that your configurations are working properly. Okay, so that's really all there is to talk about the routers. So the next thing to do is to build them. So I've prepared 4 examples for you today that we're going to walk through together. I forgot to mention this in the beginning. There is a copy of the slide deck in the handouts portion of the GoToWebinar control panel. So if you wanted to download these, please do. So the first one we're going to build is going to be a language preference. So what it will do is it'll save the language preference and then automatically route repeat callers to their language preference. So I'm going to use the example of Google support, for example. And every time I call them, they ask me my language preference. I'm always calling them from the same number. So sometimes it's a little aggravating. It's like they should remember that. Well, with this, we can. So we can say if I've selected English as my preference language, that every time I call back, it's not going to prompt me. It's going to automatically save that and then route me to the appropriate English speakers. Or on the flip side, it would be Spanish speakers. So to build this, we did need a few additional items. We're going to work with custom fields, a voice menu, an IVR menu where the person is going to make their original selection. And then we're going to do some field mapping under the IVR. So let's take a look at creating this configuration. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to show you was the custom field. I created a custom field in the contact box to have a language field. So I did that kind of quickly. If you go to settings, custom fields, that'll bring you to where I am right now. And then here's a list of all the custom contact fields that I have created. And one of them is language. Okay. So if I go to my call log and I open any of these boxes, now we can see I have my custom field of language. So I just created this today, so I don't have any filled out yet, but that will be on every contact that calls in. So the next thing I did is I created an IVR menu that will play for each person calling in, and I named it language preference. So this would be the main greeting when somebody calls one of your tracking numbers. And then I gave it a simple description of for English, press 1, for Spanish, press 2. And then I came down here and created my my options. So if they press 1, I'm going to have it call an agent. This would be my English speaking agent. So I'm having it route here. And then I told it to add the action to update the language field in the contact panel and write that in as English. So again, if somebody hears my, my language preference greeting, they press 1, I'm going to automatically save that into the field of English. If they press 2, I'm going to route them to my Spanish speaking agent, and then they're going to, it's going to automatically update the custom field with Spanish. So that's going to save on the contact level. So every time this person calls back, I'm going to have this information about them. So from here, I can create my, my smart router to automatically identify that so that every time they call in, they don't get reprompt for what language to select. Okay, so let's go ahead and build the router. So I'd go to numbers, smart router. Since I don't have one created yet, it's going to drop me right in. So I'm going to call this my language preference. Whoops. Okay. And now here's where I'm going to create my routing rules. So I'll say add new. So how I'm going to create this one is I'm going to say if first time contact is no, so this is going to be a repeat caller. Because if it's a first time caller, they wouldn't have gone through the IVR yet. So I need to wait till they call back so that way I can apply the logic that's saved into their contact. So if they are a repeat caller, then I want to say, and the language field is English. Then I want to add my action, I want to route it to, if you have a queue, you could route it to your English speaking queue, which I can go ahead and do that. I'm just going to say it's my sales queue. Probably should have named that English sales queue. Okay, so this is now saying if it's a repeat caller and their language is English, we're going to send them right to the queue so that they don't have to make their language preference again. All right, so the next thing I want to do is create another rule. So I'll say add rule. And this is going to be in the case that they are a Spanish speaker. So I would say if first time contact is no, and my language is Spanish. Oops, I really can't type today. Then I'm going to tell it to route the call to agent, and I'm going to pick my Spanish speaking agent, which is going to be Mark today. Okay. So just another recap here. So we're applying logic for repeat callers that have gone through the IVR before. So if they came in and they had selected English, then we will automatically route them to the English. If they've come in before and selected Spanish, we would automatically send them to our Spanish speaking either agent or queues. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to determine what will happen if none of the rules were taken. We don't probably want to hang up. We probably want to send to our voice menu, and then they probably want to go to our main business routing. So that's in the case that none of these options were there. This is telling it to handle it just like a normal call. So from there, I would save. And the last little bit to do is to assign the tracking numbers that we want to go through this. So typically it would be all of them. So I'm just going to select all of them so that repeat callers won't have to be bothered with making their language selection each time. Cool. If you have any questions on this, feel free to put it in the question box, and we'll be addressing those after the next couple of examples. Okay, so that was our language preference. So for the next one, so yep, another little recap. So again, to do the language preference, it did use custom fields. It used voice menus with an IVR, and we did some field mapping under the IVR menu to map that selection into the custom field. So it may sound pretty complicated, but we did set that up in just a matter of minutes. Okay. So up next, we can do holiday schedules. So this one has come up a lot in the past. When you create your different schedules, it's like, how do you handle it in the case of a holiday when your office is going to be closed? So with that, we can use a smart router to say if the date is after, I believe this is Memorial Day, or before this day, then we can tell it to play a different message so that way we can alert them right away that you're closed that day, and then decide how we want to handle those calls. So let's go ahead and create a holiday schedule. Let me switch back my screen. Here we go. So because I already have one created now, here I will select new smart router, and then come in here, and I'm going to call this holiday schedule. Okay. So first thing I need to do is add my rules. So with that, I'm going to say if the date is after, and then I'm going to say, actually, it's May 27th. We're going to add the rule, and then we're going to say, and the date is before the 28th. Then I want to play a custom message for them to let them know that we are going to be closed for the day. So I can type one in here. I kind of call this the speak and spell. It's like that toy I had as a kid. You know, you type it in and it would read. It works the very same way. So in this case, I'm going to thank them for calling and let them know that we're closed today and that we're going to be reopening tomorrow at 9 a.m. So it's just a nice way to let them know before they have to go through all the options that you are closed for the day. If you wanted to, you can use your microphone to record your own audio. And if you have a professionally recorded one, you could also upload your own there. Some of the fun options here too is you can change the voice if you're just going to do the typing it in. So we have lots of different voice options for you, as well as lots of different language options. So that would be the accent that it's read in. So now on this day of Memorial Day, and what I'm going to want to do is probably send them to a voice menu, and then from here, I'm actually just going to play, we'll say, after hours voicemail. So because we're closed, I'm just going to send them right to my voicemail so that they can leave a message. And then again, we'd want to add the tracking number, so I'd have to hit save. And then if none of the following rules were taken, we would want to do our default and send them to our main greeting. Oh, not general voicemail. Business hours, there we go. I actually just saw I have a better, where'd it go? General voicemail. And then save. And then I would go through, since this is going to be offices are closed, again, it would make sense to add all of my different tracking numbers to this. And then save again. And now we have our 2 smart routers created. Okay. For the next example I'm going to show today is going to be for specialized agent routing. So say you're an agent and you have a client book, you can make it so that if your clients call in, that it automatically routes to you so that you know, they come directly to you the first time. So it's a great way to manage your clients. So let's go ahead and create a rule for that. This one's pretty easy to do. All right. So from here, I'm going to say, call this my client list. I might say Jessica's client list. I like to save as I go. So I'm going to want to start by building my logic. So in this case, I'm going to say if the contact number, so this would be the phone number that I know my clients have. So if they call in, I want them to be auto-directed to me. So I'm going to follow the example in the screenshot and just use fake numbers. So if this client, and then I can add more logic. So instead of being and, because I don't want to do both logics, I'm going to say or. So if this client calls me, or if contact number, in this case, we're going to say client 4. So if client 4 calls me, then we'll say or, oops, contact number, or client 3, and say, then we'll go or again. Client 2. I can add a rule, make another one, and this will be client 1. So again, this is an example. If I had 5 clients and I had their numbers in here, I want these calls to come directly to me without going through all of our different IVR options. So I'm going to say route to, and then I'm going to say agent, and then I will select myself so that they will come directly to me, and then hit save. And then again, I'd probably want to add all my tracking numbers to this, or if I have specific numbers and maybe like sales related, I could add those. But in this case, I think adding all of them makes sense. So there we go. That is our third example, and that is routing to my clients, or having my clients automatically routed to me. So, okay. So we've had 3 examples so far. 1 is remembering your language preference, 1 is for holiday schedules, and 2 would be my client list. So let's go ahead and do one last example today. And for this one, it's going to be routing based on gender. So this will allow us to send calls to the appropriate gender-based call agents. So some of the scenarios for these is we work with a lot of maybe rehab facilities or even education, counselors. So if you can think of any type of logic where maybe a female should be directed to a female or a male directed to a male, or maybe for whatever reason they should be opposite. So if a female calls in, you want to send it to a male, and if a male calls in, you want to send it to a female. We can accommodate that. So like I said, there's a lot of reasons why you might want to do that. It might be for sensitivity reasons. It might be that, women tend to sell better to males. Who knows? There's a lot of different logic. So let's go ahead and build this one out. Here we go. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to say, I'm going to create my new smart router. So for this one, I'm just going to call it gender-based routing. And then I'm going to create my rules. Now from here, I'm just going to type in gender. It's going to put this here because that's going to be pulling from our enhanced caller ID. So we do get a bunch of different options from our enhanced caller ID. If I actually, from that, we can pull things like gender, phone type, age, education, homeowner status, length of residency, household income, marital status, market value, occupation, presence of children. It'll actually pull the presence of their social profiles as well. So with these, we can do a lot of fun routing. So we could say if the gender is male, then we might want to route to a male agent. So I could say agent and then select, pick on John. We'll send them to John. And then I could add another rule and then say if the gender is female, then I'm going to want to route them to a female agent. Make it Kate. And then I can go ahead and hit save. And then if it doesn't meet any of them, I'm just going to send them to our main router. So go to voice menu and then business hours. Save. And again, I like to add just all of my numbers when creating my logic and hit save. So with that, there we go. All there. Just hit save again. So some of the updates we've made probably this year is we now have really nice breadcrumbs. So I could go there and click back and it'll show me all of them. Or if I'm clicked into one of the individual routers, I now have a drop down where I can switch between them. So it makes it real easy to hop from one to another. So with that, that is the presentation I have today on our smart routers. I could go over examples all day on how to use them. Like I said, the use cases are really infinite, from really simple logic-based to really complex logic-based. But in general, I would always recommend testing them. I'd do the test on the screen, as well as possibly placing some test calls to make sure that they're all working properly. So with that, thank you all for attending. If you have any questions, feel free to put them into the question box, and I'd be happy to address them. And again, in the GoToWebinar panel, there is a handouts, so you could download the PDF, and from there it'll actually have the screenshots so that you can see exactly how these were built. Unfortunately, it doesn't allow me to attach very many handouts, so I couldn't give you a screenshot of each of the individual setups. Okay, well, I will hang on the line for just a couple of minutes and see if we have any questions coming in. So that was 4 use cases. I'd love to know your use cases or if you've used them before. Okay, well, it doesn't look like anyone's actually typing in any questions. So with that, thank you all for attending today. I hope you learned a lot. There is a short survey after this, and one of them is to suggest future topics. So, if you have any ideas for future webinars, we would love to hear them. All of this week's were by request. So, your feedback does matter, and we try to accommodate, what you're looking for. So with that, have a fantastic day, and I hope to see everyone tomorrow as we talk about, I believe, the Data Studio. All right, take care.